special night, and we want to make sure that those students and those teachers who deserve the honor that they're receiving tonight get sort of those props. So we're very glad to have you here. Before we start, we would like for Danny Walker, who is a founding member of the Terrebonne Foundation for Excellence, to come up, and he is going to lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'd ask that you all stand.
Thank you, Stan. Please bow your heads, please. God our Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather here with such inspirational people. We thank you for your inspiration, for we are your true students and you are the true teacher. Please bless the food that we're about to eat to the nourishment of our bodies. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. First, I want to make it absolutely clear that you are all special guests here tonight. There are people we're going to sort of single out from our school system that we're so happy to have with us. But again, you're all special. But we'd like to recognize a few people. Our superintendent of schools from Terrebonne Parish is here tonight, Bubba Ogeron. Bubba, would you stand up? Our chief academic officer in our school system is here, Sandra LaRose. And something a little new this year, for those of you who have been before, don't know about this, those of you it's your first time, what a great surprise. I say surprise, but to have Nichols and Fletcher here, and they'll make a little special contribution to this event a little bit later tonight. First, Miss Renee Hicks from Nichols State University. Where's Renee? Listen, I'm gonna go over what Renee's title is right now. She is the Assistant Vice President for Institutional Effectiveness, Access, and Success. All right, very good. Also with us from Fletcher is Miss Anna Nanny. Anna is the Vice Chancellor for Enrollment and Student Development over at Fletcher. So again, welcome, welcome. And we'll hear from you a little bit later in the program. Also, from our school board, we have our school board president this year, Dr. Maybelle Trahan from District 8. Dr. Trahan. We have Ms. Debbie Benoit from District 4. Ms. Benoit is here in the front. We have Mr. Clyde Hamner from District 6. Clyde. And Bubba, I told you I'd look at you. We always, each year, I get in a little trouble because I forgot somebody. Again, you're all special and important. We kind of do what we can when we get to this. But if I did miss somebody who is on the school board, my sincere apologies. And I don't see anybody yelling at me yet, so I guess we're okay. Next, this is our board of directors for the Terrebonne Foundation for Academic Excellence. I say this every year. I kind of told Ashley I would say it again this year. I am a retiree of 30 years from the school system 10 years ago, but at that time, I got to tell you, as a teacher in this system, I didn't know much about what TFAE did. A few years ago, I was asked to be on the board, and I'm so proud of all of these people and what they do, because the fact is that I would venture to say maybe not one of those people up there currently has a child that's in the school system. They do this because it's a stake in our community. And they work extremely hard, and if you would see the funds that are generated, I told Ashley I was going to throw out some number, but I don't know if I was right, but I know we've been over millions since it was incepted in 1993, I think it was. And thanks to Danny and George Robichaud and those folks who got this all going way back when, it's a wonderful, wonderful board who does so much for public education in Terrebonne Parish. And here's where we recognize those teachers of the year and those principals of the year from our school system. Just so that you do understand, this is an award that is awarded by the school system. This doesn't come from TFAE. This is a vote of their peers. This is a vote of the school system. It's awesome what these teachers have done, and we, TFAE would like to recognize them tonight. So we'd ask that Ashley, our executive president, and Josh from Hancock Whitney be present to give them these awards. First, our Teachers of the Year in Terrebonne Parish. Our elementary teacher from Montague Elementary, Miss Michelle Pinell. Our next award goes to our middle junior high school teacher of the year, and that recipient is Ashley Hebert of Montague Middle School. Got some smart kids coming out of Montague. And finally, our secondary Teacher of the Year from Terrebonne High School, Miss Emily Stupley. And now we move on to our Principals of the Year. First, our Elementary Principal of the Year, Miss Amanda Callahan from Grand Caillou Elementary. And now our Junior High Middle School Principal of the Year, Mr. Jason Corbin. And finally, our principal on the secondary level, who is not only the parish principal of the year, he is a finalist for state principal of the year. That all was found out just recently. He is in the running right now, so he's got a lot of work to do, and he'll be in Baton Rouge from Ellendon Memorial High School, Mr. Blaze Pellegrin. At this time, we would like to ask Mr. Bubba Ogeron to come up, our superintendent of schools, and just give us a little update and tell us how things are.
All right. Good evening, everybody. How are you all? Good. Good seeing so many students smiling, and we're so ready to hear your story. It's a great part of the night. So I want to just, on behalf of the school board, I want to thank Ashley, you and your board and all of the TFAE workers for just pouring into our students and ultimately our students, but our schools and bigger picture the community, because we realize that you understand how we are just so much a big part of our community and just making our community thrive from the work that our kids and these teachers here that are teachers of the year and the teachers that are there every day in class, the work they do to make us thrive. And we thank you for all your support. We appreciate it. Update, just I'm gonna say this little plug, one plug. A lot of people are asking about our school system. Well, I said this week. We are teaching and learning about as normal as we've ever been. Things are going, right, Miss Ann? Things are happening at Terrebonne High and all of our schools, just like pre-storm. However, we have a lot of work to do to get back to the pristine state we were in prior to the storm. We're not quite there. So if you want to know where we're at, on our website, we have a really detailed list of building projects and the status of every one of our schools. If you go to our website and look at Hurricane Ida recovery, that'll bring this whole spreadsheet with every school and the exact location of where they're at with the status of repair. It's really good information, and it'll answer a lot of your questions about where we're at with some of that. So again, thank you, TFE, for all that you do. Tonight, historically, what you've done, Mr. Stans, said that, you've been such a integral part of so many innovative things happening in our classroom. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Bubba. So here is where we start to honor our distinguished scholars and our inspirational teachers. And Bubba mentioned it, and we talked about all of our TFAE board members, but our leader, our executive director, is Ashley Barahona, does a tremendous job. Ashley's going to tell you how this comes to be for a person to be a distinguished scholar and a person to be an inspirational teacher. So without further ado, our leader, Ashley Barahona.
Oh, thank you, Stan. Thank you. I wrote notes because I always forget to mention something while I'm up here, but this is by far my favorite night of the year. It's my favorite event. Not only do we get to celebrate 11 extraordinary young adults, but we also get to acknowledge the people who have helped them along the way. Thank you to all of the family and friends, central office, the supporting staff, my board of directors, all of our sponsors, the technical school that helped with the food this evening, and also to Stan and to Dustin, who was the man behind the camera, and I like to say the man asking the questions as well. Mariah, Denasia, Shane, Cadence, Charity, Miss Claudia, Camden, Elsa, Madison, Cameron, and Dalen. Your courage and drive, your tenacity is what has gotten you here tonight and is what's going to get you a successful future ahead. I'm honored to be here this evening in your presence. We asked the guidance counselors, the teachers, supporting staff at the school to nominate that child that has excelled and overcome challenges and obstacles in their lives and still manage to be the best and give their best every single day. Then my committee takes those nominations and chooses 2 from our local high schools, 2 from our technical school, and 1 from our adult education. Over 75 nominations came in, and the 11 distinguished scholars that sit here tonight were chosen. And if that wasn't enough, we asked those distinguished scholars to think back of all those educators that impacted and inspired them and helped them along the way. We asked them over probably about 100 teachers that they've encountered throughout their whole entire schooling career. Who inspired you? Who impacted you? Who helped you in ways that exceeded classroom expectations? Our 11 inspirational educators are more than just that teacher who teaches math, or science, or English. You are heroes. Thank you to the teachers in this room that took the time and went above and beyond, even if it was just a simple smile or a positive attitude. You are changing this world, one child at a time. So I hope you guys really enjoy what we have in store for you tonight. Thank you all.
We went out and we talked to the teacher and the student, and they sat next to each other. I think that's important because when you're going to be seeing this at the very beginning, you think it's one at a time. It's not. They're sitting right next to each other just to get that, I guess, emotional attachment of what's going on. That being said, if we would have left all the footage in here, we'd be here till tomorrow morning. So it did take some editing. I said, and it was a labor of love to sit down at the computer and edit all of this. But it's really fun, and we hope that this is something that goes on forever. Like people can go back and look at this 10 years from now and think that's what motivates a kid. That's why a kid is going to do well in class. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say our first inspirational teacher and distinguished scholar and let it play, and we'll call them up after. Josh, again, we hope that you could come up and get that picture with him after. So here we go, our first distinguished educator and inspirational teacher.
I actually knew about Shane before he ever made it to my classroom. I had taught his brother the year that COVID happened, and when he was a freshman, my husband coached him football, freshman football. So I knew that he was an incredible athlete, that he was a really just driven person. So I'd heard a lot about him before he ever stepped foot in my classroom. So of course I taught him in the 11th grade, and that's when the hurricane happened, and I don't know, that was just kind of it was really a whirlwind. And we were over at HL because we were platooning there in the afternoon. And I mean, Shane showed up every single day. I mean, before and after the storm, he was the perfect student. He would get all of his work done. He would ask good questions.
I want to show like other kids in the group home like how like my life affected how like the outcome of my school and stuff, and that I just want to show them that it's possible to graduate and do what you want to do in life, and just show effort every day and just get to where you're going.
One of my favorite memories is us working on tests together. How Shane would take a test, okay? And I have this thing where when my students are testing, that I go and check in with all of them at least once to make sure that they're doing well, if they need a confidence boost, if they have any questions, because I know that sometimes students are afraid to ask questions, but if you approach them, yeah, I have a question. And I like to take test day as an opportunity to still teach. So it was always my favorite. He would save all of his questions for the end. And I'd pull up a chair or I'd get on one knee and we would just talk about history. And it was really awesome to watch the light bulb go off. He would realize, okay, and then like he'd start, we'd figure out where he made his mistake, and it was just a really awesome process to watch. And that's one of my favorite memories, that we would kind of tackle the test together, and he'd go earn his A.
I plan on being going to college and for maybe personal trainer or anything, or electrician. I still don't know yet. Still trying to decide, but I just want to go I really want to go to school to help people out, kind of like a group home situation and stuff. I just want to help other kids to succeed in life.
Oh, the sky's the limit. The sky is the limit. I know that Shane hasn't had an easy life. And he's overcome a lot of obstacles, and it's just more than COVID, it's more than the hurricane. And he can get through anything. Really, the sky is the limit for him. He's never let any of that stop him achieving from what he wants to achieve. He's an incredibly hard worker. He's had to make a lot of sacrifices, and he's graduating. So really, that's just the first step for him, I think.
I just wanna be in peace. That's it. just doing my own thing and just
Being happy.
Being happy, being just more mentally and all that, yeah.
Despite the circumstances that we were put in the past couple of years, that I showed up and I did a good job. That I did what I was supposed to do, that I taught history with enthusiasm, that it was obvious it's something that I love, and that I always tried to help people, that it's the right thing to do to help people. So I would hope that that's what they would remember about me.
A wonderful teacher, just had a smile every day, walked in class, just dedicated to what she wanted to do, and just to show pride. She just always was a happy person and just always wanted to help other kids.
Coach Philip Walther, he taught me English in high school, GT English. I actually took him 3 times, 3 years he was my teacher. And just the trust and confidence that he had in us, it's something that I wanted to replicate for my students. Just down to earth, good guy, and I had the honor of working with him. He was my colleague for several years. So if anybody asks me who's my favorite teacher, it's him.
Not many teachers actually come to come help you and guide you through a lot of things, and when you're going through, and you can actually go to her anytime when you need something, she'll do it right away, and it just really motivated me.
I had a really awesome high school experience, and that's something that I wanted to replicate for my students. And I mean, it was really important for me to get back to South Terrebonne because that's the community that I'm from. So I felt like I could connect with those students. And like I said, I just wanted to replicate my experience in some way, shape, or form for future Gators and future students.
Ladies and gentlemen, outstanding scholar Shane Theriault and inspirational educator Courtney Sinak. As they take a picture, just a side note, a big thanks to Thibodaux High. Courtney has been at South Terrebonne, but this year she's at Thibodaux High, and they were very welcoming to us and opened their doors for us. So we appreciate everything that Thibodaux High did. Here we go, our second.
Elsa is a go-getter. She comes to class prepared every day. She knows exactly what she wants out of life. She knows that being on the college track, that she didn't have to come to our school and learn a trade, but she chose to come and learn this trade so she can get a better understanding of the healthcare field and see if that's really what is for her.
One of the things that really motivates me is definitely like the fact that you said like we didn't have like a normal like high school experience. So it's like, this is my final year. I'm gonna do what I can. I'm gonna try the best that I can, even though I've been doing that for the past 4 years. Also, like my parents, they never got an education.
Elsa's very good with interacting with everybody in the class. She gets along with everybody. She has a great attitude. She is, like I said before, she's a very hard worker. She's worried about doing the best that she can do. And in the medical field, that's what we need. We need caring people. We need people with good bedside manners. She has excellent manners. And we need people that's just gonna care about the person that needs the help, and that's Elsa. She cares about people in the class. She makes sure that everybody has whatever they need.
I want to do like so many things, but I know it's like I might be able to do it, and I want to do it. I know I can. So I'm definitely looking to go into the medical field, definitely helping out people. I think that's just always been like my dream. It's always like I've known that I'm like good at helping people, and people always tell me like, thank you for helping me, or like, thank you for doing this for me, you know?
Elsa is very outspoken, and I would dare to say even loud. She's loud. So when we are going over maybe the study guide, after we presented the lesson, I give them time to work on their stuff. We're going over the study guide, and she just gets so excited about the stuff that she learned in class that she's like hollering out the answers. And it's like, I've never had a student that was this excited about learning this material that we teach in. When I was in high school, I seen all these students walking around Ellender with scrubs on, and I was like, oh, I don't know what they're doing, but that's what I need to do. I knew from a young age that I needed to take care of people. Penny LeBlanc was my teacher. She was awesome. She brought us places that we never thought that we would end up being. We went to the nursing homes. We went to the hospitals. We went to every different department in the hospital. We got to really see what healthcare really was.
25 years from now, I think my perfect scenario that I've always thought about is definitely I've helped so many people, and I've changed their lives in any way possible. And I've always thought about like moving back where I came from, helping the people. Like moving back to Mexico, it's not a great place to live. And it's like, I want to help anyone that I can.
I try to get these kids to understand, you come here, you learn this stuff. I don't care what you want to be when you grow up. Someone's always going to be sick. You're going to have to bring somebody to the doctor. You want to know what that doctor is saying. because they're gonna use those big fancy words. And we might not always understand those words, but if you get that base here, it'll carry you so far in life. No matter if you wanted to be a homemaker, you're gonna have kids. You're gonna have to take care of kids. You gotta know what to do with those kids. Or if you want to continue your education, you can go to be a doctor, a nurse, whatever it is. You need that base. And I think that's what we give, is that good base. And from there is just a jumping point.
And the first day I walked in, like, I didn't know who Mr. Plantis was. They didn't tell me. And I thought it was Miss Cuddy. So I asked her, "Are you Mr. Plantis?" And she's like, "No, she's sitting at her desk." And I go, and like the first thing I see is Mr. Plantis, and she's like laughing. And she has like a big smile on her face. And she's like, "Oh, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm like Elsa." She's like, "Yeah, I've seen you on my roster." And like, she seems so approachable. Like, some teachers, sometimes they're just like so distracted by other students. They're like, "Oh, okay, like take a seat." No, she like welcomed me, and she like made me feel like, oh, like she knows I'm in her class, and she gave me what I needed to do, and she caught me up with like, "Look, this is what we've been doing in the class. Go ahead and just turn this in when you can." And she just made me feel like really welcome in her class. But like Ms. Plantis, like, she's been teaching for however long she's been teaching, and she has this passion, and she shows it to us every day we walk into class. And she just makes us smile. She makes us, like, she teaches us with such a passion that I feel really inspired by her. Like, I want to do this. Like, I know I want to do this. So, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, outstanding scholar Ilsa Hernandez and inspirational teacher Miss Rennie Duplantis. Next.
Madison is a great person. She's very charismatic, strong work ethic. She's very determined to succeed, has been since she's been really young, which is a great attribute to her. She's just an overall really good kid.
I've always wanted to have a better future than my parents did, because I know they didn't choose to do the things that they did because they didn't want to. They chose it because they weren't like financially there, or they knew that there was other things that they had to do because of siblings or other responsibilities. So I've just always wanted to succeed for them and me and all my family, and show them that, like, no matter what, like, you could do what I'm doing here. And like other kids that have the same learning disabilities as me, like, to show them that no matter what it says on that paper, you could still overcome those obstacles that you go through.
Madison has a very bright future. She's been given a really excellent education, and she has overcome lots and lots of obstacles and did it with a smile on her face, which says a lot about who she is. There are great things in her future. I see lots and lots of potential, and I can't wait to sit back and watch.
I plan on attending Southeastern University in Hammond. I want to major in engineering, and right now, like, I'm kind of in between engineering and computer science because I love math. That's my passion.
She started when she was in 3rd grade. She came here because she was struggling to read, and so we worked on reading for years. The funny part about her is when she would transition to a new school, she would always call us to come back to tutoring every single time she transitioned to a new place. So we'd take her back in, give her some confidence, and send her back on her way, because it wasn't us that she needed, she just needed some confidence.
A perfect life for Madison would be, I'll be married, have kids, potentially work for NASA, because that's one of my dreams. I want to be a mathematical engineer. Hopefully, potentially help them send a rocket into space maybe some astronauts if it comes to that time, if it's around that time period.
It's just my passion. I love to teach kids. I love to see when the light bulbs click. There's no better joy than that.
Miss Holly definitely has helped me from day one, and I knew that even if I needed just a little bit of help, she would be there. And it always, when I came here, I knew that I was gonna get the help that I needed. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and not do anything. I came here because I wanted to come here. I didn't come here because my parents forced me to come here. At the beginning, it wasn't all just oh, we know that you need to come and go to tutoring and all. It was more of me that wanted to come. It wasn't just my parents.
I would say Miss Christine Falgu. She was my 9th grade algebra teacher at Ellender Memorial High School. She taught me algebra and algebra 2. She was a phenomenal role model, excellent teacher. And I worked for a really great administrator, Stacy Soleil. She was a dynamic educator to follow.
When I first got the honor, I was like, oh, I have to pick a teacher. It's who would I pick? And the first person that came to mind was Miss Holly. I had some other teachers in mind, but I didn't have them for as long as Miss Holly's been in my life, and I knew that time when I was here really changed how my education went from, I went from a CED student to a honor roll student that got scholarships because of my grades. So it was more of who was there from the beginning than who was there when I was already succeeding and just helped me, push me to complete those goals.
I hope that they see how passionate I am about education. I hope that we have truly impacted this community in being able to reach as many kids as we possibly can.
Outstanding scholar Madison D. Hart and inspirational educator Miss Holly Edgar. Next.
She actually had Mr. Ussery right next door to me, so her and her friend will always come walking in the halls. And me being the teacher that I am, I just greet everybody, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? You feeling okay today? And she was one of those that just always told me how she felt, whether I asked or not. It just kind of built that rapport of me and her. She would come visit my classroom all the time, and as I got to know her, I'm like, this kid is grand. She has a great mind. She's very, very wise, way beyond the age of her peers. She's just somebody who has always been a person of her word, somebody who's always been determined to do whatever she needed to, big or small, and I just love that about her.
What motivates me to keep on, keep going, to most importantly to make my parents proud and to just be that role model for my little siblings, because I have 3 under me and I have an older sister, but she doesn't live with us. So I just push to strive and tell them whatever happens, you can still be whatever you want to be in life and prosper and just live life.
She tells me about her future a lot. She wants to get into the world of psychology, and I feel like that's going to be great. She exudes empathy. She exudes patience. She exudes open-mindedness, that cross-cultural stance. You know, being here at Ellender, we have an array of different beings here, and she is somebody that really, really is able to mesh with every last one of those students. And just seeing her in the classroom and how she's a leader more than anything, she kind of takes an issue and she's kind of the fixer of most of the issues within the classroom. So I think her future is going to be grand.
This encounter with Miss Jackson, I was just walking in the hall with my friend and I seen her and she was just like, hey, how you doing? I was like, good, how are you? And then it just became a routine, like I would see her every day in the hallway, speak to her. And then one day I got dispersed in her class and we started talking about work. And she was opening up her own business and I was like, I want to work for you. I'm gonna be 16 or whatever. And so she just one of those people, I love getting good vibes from people, because if I get a bad vibe from you, I'm not gonna really talk to you as much as I was talking to you. But she came with good vibes. I was just talking to her. I felt comfortable, safe to be around her every day, and it just became a natural routine. And then I got her as a teacher my senior year, and then it just opened my mind to millions of things that I never knew once about myself and about others in the world.
When I was in high school, I had so many great teachers, but sometimes I didn't really get the takeaway from, what is this? They spent so many hours with me, and sometimes I didn't really feel like they made a difference. So I always say I'm a people person, for one. I'm very extroverted. I love people, but working with the youth and inspiring the youth is big to me because they're our future. I feel like what we instill in them now is going to exude within the future. It's going to make a whole difference.
After I graduate, I plan to go to college, UL, University of Lafayette, to study psychology and hopefully own my own private practice and just give whatever life gives me.
One specific memory that kind of reflected, it made me become introspective as a teacher. She's on the student advisory board for Terrebonne Parish. And, that's when the students go and they exude, all of their questions, comments, or concerns that's going within their school. So, just her going there and just being a part of that board was very, very great. But what really stuck out with me was when she told the superintendent, Ms. Jackson is making a difference. That's a teacher that's allowing me to kind of open my eyes to what's going on. And she's telling me these things, and we really want to make a difference. It's bigger than science lessons with me. When they're in my classroom, I want them to understand, look, what you take from me, I want you to be able to take this and hold this and put it into your hippocampus of that brain where you store your memories and say, you know what, Miss Jackson exuded that fire. She ignited that fire within me to, stand up for myself, stand up for what you want.
I see myself happy, a beautiful house, just a lovely family, just being happy, just enjoying nature, living life to the fullest, and just loving myself more than I ever have because I made it through everything, and despite those who didn't think I would make it.
I want to take that little light bulb that's kind of flickering and just twist it to the point where you're shining brighter than, you ever thought you could. And just seeing that light bulb go off on students who don't even think they have the potential and hearing them say, Miss Jackson, if it wasn't for you, I would have gave up. Or Miss Jackson, thank you for caring. I don't have people who do that.
I want to explore the world. I don't see myself living here, but I do plan to come back because I want to open up a recreation center for those teens that need jobs, but it's hard with school and work. I want to be able to have sports activities. I want to be able to have any type of things to help the kids in our neighborhoods prosper and all that.
I had multiple teachers, man. Southdown Elementary was a great school. One of my faves, Nellie Brown, she was a science teacher. She's awesome sauce. She was always a teacher that cared. It was just so deeper than just life science with her. She made a difference. I felt welcomed in her class every day, down to her children, William, her only son. I have little baby pictures of him because he was like my little brother. She was a fam. She was like our mom, at Southdown. Bonnie Skidmore, another one. She was amazing. 3rd grade, she was awesome. The best math teacher I've ever had in the whole world. Sandra Gray, she was amazing. So many people, I can go on and on and on.
When she plans her lesson, she interacts with everybody. She'll ask us, what do we want to be? And then she'll reflect it. I want to go into psychology. We end up talking about the brains and how sleep affects the brain and all that. And then we just started from there. She interacts and she deals with life lessons, life stories that's going around in the world.
You have to kind of put the students first and kind of see things in their perspective. You can't just go into it and say, okay, this is what I expect of you, because teaching here at Ellender, there are so many different students with so many different hardships, and I feel like being an open-minded person goes a long way when it comes to being an educator. And the people who inspired me, they were always open-minded, they never made us feel less than what we were if we didn't get something. They never made me feel dumb for asking a question, because some people can be that way, but they got down to the point of the most minute, whatever you need, the most minute detail of anything that I needed. They always were there, no matter what.
Ladies and gentlemen, outstanding scholar, Denasia Thomas, and inspirational educator, Miss Micaiah Jackson. And they look good together. Next.
Cadence is very driven. She really excels. I'm not going to say she's the most competitive, but she brings something to the table that not all students can bring, and it's not something you can necessarily put your finger on. But she's very driven, she's very reserved, but she speaks when she needs to speak. She knows how to read a room. And so being my captain this year, that's one of the qualities I look for, is my captain has to be able to read the team and know the strengths and weaknesses. And she had the 2 years prior under a bunch of, well, last year they were all seniors, where she actually got to read them and learn how to read what you needed to be able to do for Quiz Bowl for the captain. But one of the things that I've always noticed, she's very driven, she is very punctual, and it's got to be done a specific way. And if it's not in that way, it can just throw things off, which I'm kind of the same way sometimes.
I'm just very self-motivated. My parents have always been like that, so I guess it just kind of rubbed off on me. I've been surrounded by band parents that would do anything for their kids, whether they had to stay up building props all night or painting or sewing, anything they needed. So seeing that they were driven to help their kids also affected me and made me want to be driven for myself.
I think the future holds quite a bit for her. She is going to be successful in whatever she does because she is determined to get it done, and she's going to make those things happen.
Right after graduation, I'm going to Nichols. I already signed, and I'm going to major in business and minor in geology because I also have a huge rock collection. And eventually it'll turn into me going work for a jewelry store or eventually creating my own jewelry store where I could appraise my own things and really understand what each piece is.
I've known her since she was in elementary school because my children being in the band with her dad, I got to see her. And one of the things that I always remember is her birthday is always during festival season. So they would usually have a cake after one of the rehearsals or before going to one of the competitions where we would sing, the band would sing happy birthday to Cadence, and we would give cupcakes or cake or whatever to the band students. You know, so she was always around between her mom and her dad being with the band.
I want to stay close to home with my family. I want to have my own little small family. Hopefully the jewelry stuff goes really well and I'll have my own store where I could sell whatever I want. I'll be living in a big old fancy house.
I would hope that they would remember the class itself, but a lot of them will probably remember me as that crazy science teacher, that crazy science lady, which is my Twitter handle, as a matter of fact, Crazy Science Lady. I tend to do lots of experiments that some people would probably term off the wall, but it's got more of a real life spin to it where the kids actually go out and they can actually see the science in what they do. I think a lot of them, I would want them to remember me as that crazy science teacher that really brought science to life.
Well, when I first met her, I was probably, I don't know, about 6, and I was with my parents at one of the other band parents' houses, and we were all sewing color guard flags because they didn't print them then. And she was one of the parents that was sewing, and I went and do it with her. Like, she just taught me how to do it. And so we would do that together when I was younger. And she's just always been there since.
That was my high school chemistry and physics teacher, Miss Mobile at Assumption High School. She really affected a lot of what I did. And I think another one was my middle school band director, Joe Billy King. He's retired now, but he kind of sparked some things in me as well that helped me to touch base and understand some of the things that made my mind tick.
Well, I've known her for a very long time, and she was always a big part of my life. Whether I was at a football game, she would come tell me, hey, and she would go take pictures of me with the band. And I just saw how much she helped my family when they needed help. And we do the same to her. We've been helping her move her stuff because she's retiring and moving up to Connecticut. But I feel like she really knows who I am. She's seen me at my high and my low when I was younger, and now she's just seen it all, and she really understands what has happened, not just to me, but to my family and everyone else around me.
I like seeing the light bulbs go off. I remember in high school, in taking my chemistry and my physics class, which is one of the reasons why I decided to major in chemistry and physics education. I remember my teacher it just set off some light bulbs. It's like, I really enjoyed it. I had the best combination of math with science.
Miss Ann Barrios and Cadence Luquette. Our next inspirational educator and distinguished scholar.
Daylin's very bright and she's very outgoing. When she's in class, she's like a mama student is what I call them. She likes to help everyone around her, whether it being their work, or it's needs something to eat, needs something to drink. She's always feeding, always helping. She's always pouring into the people around her. And she's just a shining light. She's bright, she's enthusiastic. When she comes in, she's always good morning, good afternoon, every time she sees me, and outside in the hallway, inside the classroom. She's very interacting. So she's just a bright and shining star.
When I come to school and I see like other people and they're struggling and they're failing and stuff, it's just like, I want to help these people, and maybe my life isn't as bad as theirs, but you know, I'm not trying to compare ourselves, and so I want to like come to school and help some other people, and I want to actually kind of try to inspire them. So I wake up, I go take a shower, I blow dry my hair, I get all dressed up for school, and I come to school with a positive attitude. I'm like, hey, let's do your work, let's get this right, and let's try.
She's going to be an early childhood educator, and I can see that, like, that is all about her. She's going to do amazing. Just to see her pour into the other children around her, to see her lift those kids up, because knowing your story, and I can see you making sure each one of those children in your classroom is going to be touched, and they're going to learn to love each other and themselves, and I can see you pouring into them. I'm going to cry. She's so warm, and that spirit, she has that calling. It's a calling.
Of course, I'm going to be an elementary teacher, so I'm hoping to maybe teach where my mom teaches, Upper Low Caillou, and I want to teach the kids. So after I get, financially stable a little bit, maybe I'll get married and I'll get what I want most in life. I want a baby. But of course, I want to have like a good life ready for that child. That way it doesn't have to grow up like I did, and that child would be like, oh, I love my mom. Hopefully I'll be the favorite parent.
Everybody in class now knows who to go ask. Do you have something to eat? You have something to drink? Can I come get something from you? Can you help me with this? And not even necessarily classwork questions. They're always talking to her and asking her what she thinks. Now, Daylin will stand up, and if it's something she doesn't believe they should be asking or saying, she does tell them, you know, that's not right, or that you shouldn't be saying that, or you shouldn't be talking about that in class. And it's just that she stands up not only for her fellow students, but she stands up for me as a teacher. And that it's not that she's trying to overstep, it's that she knew that it wasn't correct and it wasn't proper. And sometimes students need to hear that from other students, and that she's willing to put her reputation on the line to say, hey, you need to stop doing that.
I'm great in that little small town area. I love Houma. It's just where I see my heart in 40 years. I know I'm going to be happy as a teacher, and I mean, I want that little house with the little rockers on the front porch. It may not be realistic, really, but I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, and that's what I was taught when I was adopted. Where there's a will, there's a way, and maybe that's putting a chair to get the last cookie on the top shelf, or maybe that's just graduating college, but I do see myself maybe just living that best life and living in the moment and not really thinking.
What I would hope that their first thoughts about me was that I was a fair teacher. Sometimes I think that they'll think that I'm a strict teacher, because I do follow the lines and I do follow the rules. If there's a rule, there's a reason. And there's a reason why you need to have those rules, and that when you get out of school, rules still follow you. So I think as a fair teacher is what I would really hope that they would think about me.
Later junior year, I got dispersed to her a bunch of times, and like these kids, they would always be like messing with other people, and they messed with me, and she was just like, "Y'all be quiet." And I was just like, oh, my savior. I like this teacher, I really do. She was scary and like, very scary at first, but I like her. This year was the first year I had her full time, and the first class I was like, oh my Lord, I'm not dropping this class. Even when I learned how to drive and I could get out of school early, I'm not dropping this class.
Mr. Joller at H.L. Bourgeois, he was my accounting teacher. He was so funny and hilarious, but he was a rule follower. So originally I went to school to be a CPA. And when I went into being a CPA, I got to the third or fourth course, and I'm like, nope, this isn't for me. So I had all these business courses, and my dad owned a business. So I decided that why not go and become a business teacher? I had a daughter at that time, so I'm like, then we would be off at the same time. So that was my first initial goal, because I like business, and that's just what I like to do. I like to be a business person. So the original starting off was just to have a job and to be someplace and to start doing stuff. But really, honestly, now is that I like touching those students, and I love inspiring them or helping them pursue their next goal and to make sure that they get to where they need to get to.
When they first told me to pick a teacher, I was just like, I don't want to go for that type of teacher who like tells you, you do this, you do that. And they're saying they're trying to help you when really they're waiting for the paycheck. Miss Peters is not like that. She's really not. At first, like when you get a teacher, you're like, oh, they're going to just try to teach you, they're going to be really rude. No, I walked into her classroom and she's like that type of teacher to where like, she wants to help you, and you know, if you're not getting the help you need, she will try even harder to like find you the help you need. She will like go through the depths to find you something that will actually help you. I've never even had her for a year yet, and already I'm just like, I don't want to graduate because of her. I want to stay, but I have to graduate.
Daylin Bergeron and Miss Virginia Peters. Next.
I met Cam in 2011. He was a first grader, a little 6-year-old, and he had these bright blue eyes. And he sat in the front of the room and he was enthusiastic about learning, and he had a love for learning. He was a natural born leader. He would help the others and mentor the others in class.
My mom always motivated me to be smart and give it my best, and also I want to have a successful future. I want to be able to live happy and enjoy what I'm doing.
Cam's future is so bright. Those leadership skills that he had in first grade, he's going to use in his career, in something that he loves. And I believe that in my heart that when Cam does something he loves, he's going to be successful.
Well, after I graduate from Ellender, I plan on going to University of Northwestern Ohio. And it's a normal university, but they have a huge technical side for automotive. And they have tons of partnerships with like Monster Jam and NASCAR. And from what I see, it's probably the best automotive program in the country.
Cam and his mother in 2011 brought Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to Honduras Elementary. And the kids learned about leadership, they learned about teamwork, building self-confidence and character. And that's another example of Cam's leadership.
I'd love to have a huge garage at my house with the ability to work on cars with my kids and grow memories with them to look back on and say, oh, I remember building this car with my dad.
My mother was a school teacher for 30-something years. She loved her children, her kids, her students, and I saw the gratification she had being a teacher, and I wanted to be just like her. I would hope that they know that I love them and I believed in them, and that our classroom was always a family, and they were like children to me.
I feel like every time you walk into a new teacher's class, it's kind of intimidating, but after a while, it was a really fun class. They had a lot of fun and enthusiastic kids in the class, especially with her help.
Joy Pierce, in 8th or 9th grade, it was an honors English class, and I didn't think that I was smart enough to be in the class, and every day she told me she believed in me. And so that would be the teacher that I remember the most, because she believed in me.
It always felt like she really cared, believed in us, and wanted us to be the best that we could.
Outstanding scholar Camden Dutu and inspirational educator Miss Daphne Dago. Yeah, when we did the interview, you would swear he was in her class yesterday. Our next inspirational educator and distinguished scholar.
She reminded me of myself. She was the oldest child. She had a younger sister. She was being raised by a combination of her mom and her grandparents. And she had the will and the desire to learn. Just like I did whenever I was a young kid.
I'm motivated by teachers like Miss McGee. She has supported me through thick and thin. Whatever I wanted to do at whatever time, she's, okay, I'm there. It doesn't matter what she's doing that day. She pushes me to do better, and I want to succeed because of her.
She can do anything. Anything she would want to do, desire to do. She could have multiple things. I would love to see her become a teacher, an English teacher, but at the higher level, like not elementary school, but like high school or college, because she loves to write. And kids in this generation hate to write. They don't enjoy writing. Like, she wanted to peer edit. She wanted to write extra stories for me, even if it wasn't for a grade. She's like, look, I wrote a story. So like, she could do anything, because writing is a skill that kids these ages they just don't have.
So right now, I want to be a pediatric nurse. I want to care for little kids. I want to be there when they're sick, when they need checkups. So that's what I want to do for now.
And when Mariah was in, I don't know, you were probably at the middle school, because you sent it with Brooke. She caught it at a Mardi Gras parade, and the gorilla was about 2.5 feet tall, and she sent it to me because I loved monkeys. And that monkey became my mascot. until Ida. And when Ida happened, I went to our old building down the bayou, and Mariah the gorilla was the very first thing I grabbed out of my classroom. And she now sits on my carport next to my hot tub, and she is like a staple at my house. Like, all of my students have always known who Mariah was and why I had a gorilla named Mariah in the back. And that was 2 years after she had been in my room. She sent me a gorilla because she remembered that I loved monkeys.
Well, rooted in my heart, I'm a down the bayou girl. So I'll be kicking it in Dulac. I don't know if I'll be a nurse or not, but I'll still be caring for people.
We've remained close, and we have lots of good memories. I marched in a parade with her one year because her mama made a joke that I wouldn't sacrifice that much for her. So I did. I marched a whole mile in the Mardi Gras parade. It was not fun, but I did it. And watched her dance. And that's been another moment, a memory that I'll always have of her. I always tell my family members from New Orleans, I'm like, we have a New Orleans drum major in Houma too. It's the Ellender drum major.
My first impression, this teacher's an organized mess. What's going on? And I realized in her dysfunctional room, she is the most functional teacher. She puts the fun in dysfunctional.
I always told them it didn't matter who they were, what they did, that, you know, history's never made by following all the rules. Be yourself. It's okay to be different and not stay in that mold, you know, that society wants you to be in.
She wasn't like everybody else. All these teachers, the nice little jackets. She's pajamas every day, hair all over. She's who I wanted to be. She was the, you can be different. It's okay if you don't look like everybody else. She was that, Mariah, you're special.
I have always wanted to be a teacher. My kindergarten teacher will tell you that when I was in her class, I used to say I wanted to grow up and be just like her. And I actually taught kindergarten at St. Matthew's, which is where I went to school my very first year before I became a certified teacher.
She was basically my mold. She made me, everything I've ever wanted to do, caring for people like she cared for me, supporting people. If she could come to my doctor appointment, she would. She made me Mariah. I can never give another teacher that title because she's my reason for doing everything that I do. Every single accomplishment, she's invited to everything. Miss McGee is that inspiration, and when I think of inspiration, I see Miss McGee, so that's why I chose her.
I'm qualified to do other jobs in the school system, but I have no desire to ever leave these four walls of this. Well, I do want to go back to our real building, but no, this is where I belong. Miss Joanne Wiggins, she's Miss Caillouette now. But she was my kindergarten teacher at St. Matthew's. She taught me her very first year of teaching, kind of like I did with Mariah. Mariah was in my very first group of students when I was a certified teacher. And still to this day, she sends me messages. She lets me know when I post stuff about my students or my career. She always tells me how proud she is of me. And she'll send me little comments on Facebook sometimes about memories of things that I did whenever I was a little girl, or there's an ornament I made her, and she still hangs it on her Christmas tree every single year.
Mariah Parfait and Miss Anna D. McGee. Next.
I'm not gonna lie, she actually stand out a lot when she walked into our classroom. She definitely has a presence with her. She's always positive, usually approaches things with a great attitude, which is always a blessing when you teach a subject like math. I know it's not her favorite subject, so definitely was surprised whenever I was chosen.
My freshman year, I kind of came in and I was like expecting to just like fly by college, not college, high school, and just go to college and like, I just want to get this over with. And then like whenever we I couldn't do that because like it was cut short, I was like, wow, like I'm really missing out on everything sitting in my house. And I'm like, I don't want to just sit there. And then fast forward a couple years, I'm starting to get involved more. And then my uncle passed, and like he like told me, he was like, oh, like just keep our smile on your face. Like I see myself in you the most. And like he always told me to just show people that. So like what I try to do is I just try to reflect that whenever I can.
I think she has a drive to get to whatever she wants to be, which is a physical therapist. Yeah. And so, which actually I think is really great, because she has a positive mindset. So even when they're in pain or going through anything, I think she'll do really well. So she strives and achieves it.
Originally, my future plan, I was just like, I don't know, like I just want to be a chef. Like, you know, I like food. Let's be a chef. And so I was like, okay, chef. And then I was like, wow, like 3 years ago, I got in like an accident and I had to go to physical therapy for 2 or 3 years at a time, like months at a time. It was just all my hours were just at physical therapy trying to get better. And I was like, I could do this. This is fun. Like I like the environment. Like I was like meeting like other people. Like I've made friends with like this 70-year-old woman that I would see every day at physical therapy. And I was like, I want to do this so bad. So I just ever since then just set on that.
My very first memory is truly her being this bubbly personality who is awkward in moments that she is uncomfortable in and will sometimes be even more awkward with, which I kind of understand because we all are a little quirky. Her personality, it really does light up the room because when I taught her, we were masked. So to be able to notice all of those things with her face covered majority of the time, to still know she was smiling or just enjoying or not enjoying, you know, whatever. But it all came through, and that is a lot when you're hidden.
Right now, and like for next, yeah, because my parents are here and I love them so much. My parents have done so much for me, and so like I have to be with them until like whenever. Okay, so I plan on having children, husband, all that fun stuff. So hopefully my kids will be at my house. I'll be taking care of my parents between then, but eventually they will pass, you know? So eventually that. And so I'll probably retire in about 35 or so, but till then I plan on living my life, my husband, my kids, whoever that will be, and just waking up every morning, having a little coffee, being like satisfied and like in a good spot, and then eventually retiring on the beach. Little beach house moment, Florida, you know.
I hope they remember that I was always honest with them. I don't try to sugarcoat whenever things are not good, and even when they are good, I let them know. I do care. That's part of me caring, is to make sure they can trust me, because I think it's important for children to have an adult they can go to.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, my initial thoughts of Miss Beebe, I walked in her class, I was like, okay, this classroom is so cute. She had little fairy lights up, it was very welcoming, the lights were off, but the lamps were on. Like it was like very natural light, like not like just like HLB yellow light. Like it was just like, okay, I was like, okay, like this is cute. And then she walked in and started talking to us, and I'm like, I hate math. Like I'm already knowing this is gonna be terrible. I hate math. And she was very, like she said, very honest, yes. 100% of the time. That's one thing that she will be honest. Like she will tell you how it is. And like for me, that's what I need. And like, cause like especially for a subject I don't like, we didn't get that initial like spark. And then when I left her class, I was like, wow, she really did what she said she would and prepared me. Like it was great. I'm not gonna lie, she prepared me.
Didn't want to be a teacher when I grew up. I wanted to be a doctor, and then I figured out I wasn't going to study a whole lot, and so I liked math classes. I liked the challenge behind them, so I just kept taking math classes, and I was like, this is fun. Now once I got into high school, I thought I was going to teach college, but when I got to high school teaching, I like the interaction, not the classroom parts. Yes, that's fun when they get the aha moments and everything, but I'm a part of a lot of clubs on campus, and so I actually like to go support the kids on their whatever, sports or anything. Like I'm not a part of Beta, but I definitely had to go check out. Yeah. I seeked it out, and I had to go check out to see what she was doing in Beta. I'm part of student council. I like to see them grow as leaders in there. That is where I've seen her grow the most over the last few years. My favorite teacher was Mr. Gautreaux. Absolutely loved him. He was probably a lot like I am in the classroom. He could be harsh or rash, but still joking and always in a loving way.
She did exactly everything she said she would do, ever. Like, she was like, I'm gonna do this for you, and I'm gonna do this for you, and she goes, little kiddos, y'all gotta listen to me, blah, 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 because I'm trying to prepare y'all. And I was like, that's so true. She prepared me. Like, she did prepare me. And she's still like involved within like all kind of stuff, so it just makes me like, wow, like she does all this, sets her kids up for success, and still has time for just like put time back into like their lives.
Charity Uze and Miss Jennifer Beebe. Next.
She was wonderful. She was one of those kids that, like, she just had the best personality. She was just always in a great mood. She always was very motivated. She just was like, she was just a kid that you could talk to. She was a kid that had that almost maturity level also, that she was a joy to have in class.
Actually, my mom's been one of my biggest helpers that motivated me, that pushed me to do as best as I can.
She could be and do anything. She is a wonderful person. She was a wonderful student. I know she will succeed in whatever she wants to do.
After graduation, I got accepted into Nichols, and I'll be going into nursing. I want to work in the emergency room or a trauma center. So maybe based where I live, like somewhere that has a good trauma center.
My favorite memory is she moved on to 5th grade the following year, and my sister-in-law was her teacher, and she would hand out little prize coupons, and every so often I'd see Cameron knocking at my door, and she had scratched out whatever was on that prize coupon and said, go to Miss Segura's class, go to Miss Segura's class. And I'm like, come on, Carol, come have a seat. And she would just sit, and we get to kind of catch up on what was going on and how she was enjoying the next grade and things like that. So that has always kind of been my favorite.
It was my first day at a new school, and that morning I actually had her in the afternoon, but I walked in her class in the morning, and I was sitting there, and she started calling attendance, and I wasn't on that roster. I was actually next door, and then we switched to her in the afternoon.
I hope that my kids know that I care about not just their education, but just them in general. I want them to be a good person. I want them to remember that I came here every day for them. That was the reason that I came, was to show up and to love on them and to be there not only as a teacher, but as a mentor or as someone that just was there. I always, honestly, I loved kids. I loved from the time that I was young. I babysat, and originally I wanted to be a pediatrician. And I realized I would never make it through medical school. Couldn't do it. So I was like, my mom had randomly said one day, why don't you think about education? Why don't you be a teacher? And I was like, I don't know. So I kind of went into education classes and just fell in love, and have been here ever since.
She just stood out to me like she cared. Like, I was a new student. I had to make new friends, learn new expectations, and it wasn't just reading off a textbook. She was interactive, like she had different activities, and from 4th grade, science has been my favorite because of her.
I always go back to my kindergarten teacher. I know that's crazy, but and I think because she kind of stuck with me, and I would, run into her every once in a while. But Miss Ann Parker, she taught me kindergarten, and she was at my high school graduation, and so she's always kind of been that one that just kind of stuck out.
Cameron Price and Miss Alyssa Rhodes. And last but not least,
Claudia was a very determined student. She worked long hours, and because she was a night student at Bayou Cane, she only had 2 nights a week to be able to come to class. And she would come in from work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 6, sometimes a little later, just depended when she got off, and she would get as much work as she could get done every time.
I'm from Mexico. 22 years ago, I made one of the most difficult decisions of my life, you know. I left my home country of Mexico to come to the United States just to, for a better future for my children. But English is not my first language. So I knew I had to take the first step and improve my English. So I decided to enroll in the ESL classes on Terrebonne Parish Education to improve my English and help my kids. Unfortunately, my financial situation didn't allow me to continue my journey. So I had to put my dream, my goal on the side and move on and work to support my family.
I remember her walking into class every time she came to class with a smile on her face. No matter how tired she was, no matter how long her day was, she was excited to be there. And the day she got that diploma, that smile was even bigger.
Right now, I'm working for an ECO company, so that helped me a lot. I am enjoying what I'm doing right now, but I would like to be a registered nurse, so that's my new challenge.
I would hope they say that I was a caring instructor and that I helped them in some way. I was not a teacher. I was a respiratory therapist for a really long time. And when I went to Bayou Cane, I was going to be a secretary. And Ms. Schwartz put me in the classroom 11 years ago, and I never left.
Okay, I was very nervous. You know, English is not my first language. I was very nervous how I'm gonna communicate with my teacher, you know. And I saw Miss Paula, you know, everybody, you know, welcoming me with smiles on their faces, but for some reason, Miss Paula, we have a contact eyes. And she smiled and said, hey, come on. I don't know, something bring my attention from Miss Paula.
The teacher that affected me actually wasn't my teacher. She was the kindergarten teacher for both of my daughters. Her name is Kathy Guidry, and she was at Mulberry Elementary. And she was the cornerstone, the foundation for where they both are today.
I can stay here all day talking about Miss Paula. Oh my God. She always was there for me. Even she didn't know she was there. When I had problems understanding the subject, when I was tired to work almost 11 hours a day, I just get home and I just wanna relax. Or when I felt just quitting, she always called me. I don't know, like she knew what was going on. She knew what I was thinking, you know, and always, Claudia, I didn't see you Wednesday. Are you okay, you know? I know you got this, Claudia, you know, don't give up. So I call her my guardian angel because she was there when I need her, always, with her smile, with her love, with, of course, a lot of patience, a lot, but she always was there for me. And for that, and for her, I will be always thankful. I will not be here without her. Thank you, Miss Paula.
Miss Claudia Vizcaino and Miss Paula Green.
I'd like to thank Ashley and TFAE for inviting Fletcher to participate in this. When Ashley first reached out and was, wondering if maybe we could provide a scholarship, we were so excited to be able to acknowledge someone in our community who was a standout, who was distinguished. And so we pulled a committee together and we reviewed your applications. And while everyone is so deserving of a scholarship, one applicant rose to the top. And I would like to ask Shane Theriot to come up and receive a $500 scholarship to Fletcher Technical Community College. Congratulations. It's in here. It's in here. Can we take a picture? All right. Oh, I'm going to hand this to you.
I think he's a little in shock.
We as an institution would love to see you come on our campus. I hope all of you who have mentioned other universities, I love people at those other universities, but if you ever change your mind, Nichols is ready and open and ready to serve you. So for the distinguished students, there's a blanket at each table from Nichols, and that is for you. But it gives me great pleasure on behalf of Dr. Clune and Nichols State University right now to present a $1,000 scholarship to Daylin Bajra.
You're going to have to blow dry that hair a whole lot now. This is a special award. Allie's going to tell you a little bit about it and what it is and who is going to be the recipient of that award this year.
Yes, hello. My name is Allie Casey Lazat. I just got married, so it's a new name. But anyway, I want to introduce my parents. This is Andre and Carlton Casey, and my mother will be actually speaking a little bit about the award. This is something that we've been doing since 2008. I am the third generation to be on the board, and so it's a privilege to give this award tonight.
Good evening. I'm Andre Buque Casey, and my voice still gets shaky because I miss my dad, but he was quite a gentleman. I think several of you in this room knew him, but if you didn't, he was the kind of gentleman that was humble. He came from humble beginnings. He worked very hard. He could so identify with so many of the students in this room tonight and would be so extremely proud of each and every one of you. He had one regret. He had a list of accomplishments a mile long in his life, but his one regret was he never finished college. He was pulled twice from his education, once with the draft of World War II and once with the draft of the Korean War. But that motivated him. It never stopped him. And his motivation was to make sure that this community had a strong educational base. He believed that education was the driving force of a community, that without education you couldn't have the economic drivers that make a community whole. He fought for that. He fought for Terrebonne Parish. He fought for Lafourche Parish and Morgan City, St. Mary Parish. Our business served all three communities. He would not ever in a million years dream that an award would be named after him. And I think he would stand here tonight and he would look at each of you distinguished scholars and tell you this: never give up on your dreams. Always hold tight to what you want to be. Don't let anyone ever tell you differently, because the world is yours, just as the theme is tonight. So congratulations and best of luck to each of you.
Now he would also drop down his glasses and say, now you better finish what you started. So just so you know, I have that quote from my grandfather on my wall: finish what you start. So tonight I just want to recognize Ken, who is our award recipient tonight. And if you have not read about this man. We need to include the article that we have about his award and his distinction tonight because he is so well accomplished. I had to take some notes on my phone. So, Mr. Kinwells is a graduate from Terrebonne High School. He grew up on the banks of Bayou Black, very Southern gentleman, but he not only went to Terrebonne, he finished at Nichols, he worked his way through school and so forth, and then he worked at the Courier until he went to go to his master's in journalism at the University of Missouri in Missouri, obviously. But anyway, he then went on to Florida and worked at the Miami Herald as a reporter, and there he became the finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. And that, I think, just skyrocketed his career. He then went to work for the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. He has been awarded for numerous awards and recognitions, including he won the American Society of Newspaper Editors in 1994. When he was working for the Wall Street Journal, he was also assigned in London and worked all the global news that was happening in the 90s. And not only has he been so awarded and recognized for his reporting and his journalism, but now he's writing novels. But he's not just writing novels, he's writing children's novels about South Louisiana. And so he's just bringing so much attention and awareness of who we are as a community, and it's wonderful to see. He's now written, I want to say, almost a dozen novels, and I'm sure he's going to continue working on them. One being the Catahoula Bayou trilogy, and then his fifth novel is titled Rascal, and he was able, and this is a feat in of itself, he was able to get Mr. George Rodrigue to paint a dog for him, you know, the famous blue dog. That was I think the second work that he's ever done for someone else. So anyway, with all that being said, it's a shame he won't be able to be here tonight. He actually lives in Chicago, but he loves South Louisiana, and he is a torch and a light for our community. And what an inspiration that you can go tour the entire world and still make everyone know you are from South Louisiana and you're proud of it. And we would like to award him the distinction of the James J. Buquet Award. My grandfather would be extremely proud. So I'd like to invite Chief Justice Weimer, I'm sorry, Weimer.
I have, in a prior career, I was a teacher. I taught law and ethics at Harvard for 16 years. That's, of course, Harvard on the Bayou, Nichols State University in Thibodaux. And as a teacher, I do have a handout. I need this back because it's mine. But this is a book that Ken wrote about gumbo. And y'all can pass that around so everybody can see it. It's still on sale on Amazon, he told me to tell y'all. First, let me say congratulations to each of the honorees, the students, the teachers. The stories were absolutely remarkable and very touching. I had the opportunity when I went to high school to finish third in my high school class from the bottom. And if you get that, go ahead and laugh out loud. If you didn't, laugh out loud anyway. But some really remarkable stories about teachers that have touched the lives of their students. And I remember speaking to this elderly Cajun lady, and we were talking about the joys and benefits of teaching and how your students have the opportunity to touch your life as much as you have the opportunity to touch their lives. And I looked across the room and I said, as a matter of fact, I taught that young man over there. And she said, Sha, I never admit to that. You never know how that kid's going to turn out. What if that boy becomes an axe murderer? What you going to say? I said, I don't know. What do you say? She says, all I say is that boy was in my class. So I am here on behalf of Ken to accept this award. He sends his regrets and his regards and authorized me, in the spirit of full disclosure, to provide the following information. He and I would be remiss if the following was not disclose before I accept that fine award on his behalf. You see, Mr. Buquet, your grandfather, your father, was a very dear friend of mine. And one of my dearest friends was Jimmy DeGate, and Jimmy was actually Mr. JJ's godchild. And so, you know, that made Mr. JJ and I related because I knew his godson really well. And of course, I know the people on the board, by and large, responsible and law-abiding citizens to the best of my knowledge and belief. Back in the late 1960s, before all the teachers were born, before the students were born, Ken Wells was known throughout the community, and especially by what we refer to as the establishment, as a long-haired, good-for-nothing, hippie, maggot-infested, left-wing communist radical. And that's what was said about him by the people that actually held him in high esteem. He was elected student body president at Nicholls State University. In spite, there was an effort to ensure that he did not win by the so-called establishment. And he proceeded to do exactly what the establishment was afraid that he would do: advocate for change. He had the unmitigating audacity to advocate and lead a protest through the streets of Thibodaux because some people were being discriminated against. Black students, back then, were not being provided the opportunity to go into ballrooms frequented by white students. Apparently, as Ken said, to prevent black folk from seeing how goofy white folk get when they are drinking. And I was, and still am, about 6 years younger than Ken. And because of his radicalism, he immediately became my hero. And I really didn't know him, but I knew him by reputation, and how remarkable it is that the radicalism of his time and what he did is certainly taken for granted today. And imagine, if you will, a nation that provides liberty and justice to all, in which all people are created equal and entitled to those unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which often comes from going into a ballroom. Ken wrote a few words, and he asked me to share those, and I will do so at this time. And this is what Ken wrote. My family and I lived in London for a few years when I was reporting for the Wall Street Journal. And the Brits, that's people from Britain, have a term for when they are caught utterly by surprise. So I'm going to add to your vocabulary, compliments of Ken Wells. God-smacked. Can y'all say that? God-smacked. Okay, now you have a new word in your vocabulary. And what does that mean? It means that someone is completely and totally surprised. And so when Ashley approached me, and that's Ken, that afternoon at our Houma book launch to tell me that he had won the J.J. Buquet Jr. Award of Distinction, I was totally God-smacked. It was such a high honor, and I proudly accept it with grace and generosity with which it is being given. Thank you. It is, he goes on, it is true. He said, they told me to write a page, I sent 3, and I'll try to move through it. But it is true that I'm a proud graduate of a Houma public school, Terrebonne High class of 1966. However, I would confess that I was in no way a standout in high school, more like a B- student. And I should also confess that in my freshman year at Nichols State, I was far more interested in playing ping pong at the Aquinas Center and chasing girls, I don't know if he caught any, than I was chasing grades. So I was actually flunked out my first semester. Happily, I would soon learn a valuable life lesson. Flunking out, in and of itself, need not be a disgrace, but to have stayed flunked out would have been a disgrace. What happened to me is that after some flailing around, I found a spark that was made possible because I happened upon mentors. And the students tonight have found mentors. These were wise and kindly men who took me under their wings, saw talent in me that I never had even seen in myself, and impressed upon me the essentials for success. These would include hard work, collegiality, honesty, dependability, and a restless commitment to always try to be the best I could. The first two of these mentors were John Gordon and Ray Deal, who ran the weekly Houma Courier newspaper. Having flunked out of college and badly in need of a job and some motivation, I applied without much hope to a one ad in the paper that offered a position as a part-time employee at $1.87 per hour. Yet after a lengthy interview and perusing a written sample, they took a chance on me, a gangly 19-year-old kid whose work experience to that point was flipping hamburgers. It was an extraordinary lucky break. Within 6 months under their mentorship, I realized that I'd found my life's work. In fact, my next mentor was Al Delahaye, who, by the way, was also a mentor of mine. He was a teacher at Nichols, and Ken writes that I enrolled in his news writing class. Bear in mind, by that time, I'd been working for the Courier for a couple of years and thought that I was a pretty good journalist. I didn't think I needed a lot of additional tutoring. I was an English major, and Al's class was an elective. Al, who had gotten his PhD from the prestigious University of Missouri School of Journalism, had a different perspective. He kept telling me he thought that I could work in the big leagues of journalism if that was my goal. I just needed to work harder, dig deeper, perfect my writing skills. Does that sound like some of y'all teachers? He was a benevolent drill sergeant working me restlessly and challenged me incessantly, encouraged me tirelessly. And I resisted for about 10 minutes and then realized Al was right. Because Al believed in me, I upped my game. Isn't that what a good teacher does? It was also Al who in 1975 steered me to his alma mater at Missouri, wrote the recommendation letter that got me admitted, and got me a job as a teaching assistant with a former colleague. His admonition to me was that if I worked hard and did well, I could get noticed because major news organizations like the Wall Street Journal, the Miami Herald, the giant Gannett chain came to Missouri to recruit. Al was right. After graduation, I landed a job with the Miami Herald, at the time one of the nation's premier metropolitan dailies. 4 years later, I was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, as mentioned, for a series on how agribusiness was polluting the Florida Everglades. He did not win the Pulitzer, but one of the judges on the Pulitzer Committee was a top editor for the Wall Street Journal, and he offered me a very fine consolation prize, a job on the Journal in its San Francisco bureau. Part of that job was to roam the western states, including Alaska and Hawaii, finding and writing feature stories. He would spend years, Ken did, working for the Wall Street Journal in London, and eventually became the front page editor of the Wall Street Journal for many years. The Journal during that time won 7 Pulitzer Prizes, and he was lucky enough, he claims, to have been an editor of 2 of those Pulitzer Prize winning projects. In his spare time, as indicated, he writes novels, and in fact, all of his novels have been set in South Louisiana. He concludes by saying, I realize that there's a missionary aspect to this. Having been lucky enough to have lived away in some great cities and to have traveled some decent parts of the earth, I find it my home place is a place of wonderful people and people who really care. And he believes that it is the people of this area who have shaped his life. He is convinced that he would never have had such a rewarding and challenging career both as a journalist and novelist had it not been for those early mentors in his life. He says this about TFAE. Having done a deep dive in your website, I have come to the conclusion that if I were to distill the core of your mission, you are at heart a spark lighter. By funding grants to teachers and getting books and support materials to students, many of them students in need, you are igniting sparks that might have gone unlit without your assistance. Even more impressive, and this is no small thing, you are doing this by honoring and rewarding merit and excellence, understanding that the way to real and lasting success is not to lower standards, but to challenge all students to live up to the promise of their very best selves. In today's world, there is not a more important message to be delivered, and you are delivering that message with commitment, enthusiasm, and generosity. That I've been honored by an organization with such a noble and pressing mission makes the award all that more special. And once again, I thank you.
We appreciate you all being here. Congratulations to all our winners tonight.